shows that this vehicle is not as efficient on motorways as you might have thought. It is SUV shaped but not SUV sized, so it does lose some of the competitive advantage. We are in the Volvo EX30 and we are about to do an efficiency test. And I've done some efficiency tests before, and I have actually seen that they are not exact or accurate, but they are pretty accurate to get an understanding of how much power this little vehicle needs to move. So we will do our standard route. I have tried to connect an OBD, but none of the profiles will work. Not the Geely ones, not the Volvo ones, and not the Polestar ones. And I tried a generic profile, but it won't read anything. And I wanted to read out to see the battery size, so we can do more accurate range calculations. But I'll have to go from the numbers that the Volvo has given me for this vehicle. Anyways, I'll explain, since there is quite a while since I've done one of these efficiency tests, I just want to explain what I am doing. So we are at 33% state of charge. The most important thing here is that we are not at 100% and we are not at like 10%, but we are like in the lower middle. That's the idea for my test at least. We will drive from where we are now, which is the same location as always. We will drive through this motorway tunnel all the way to the other side here. We will turn around in this intersection here and drive back through the tunnel. When we come out the other end here, we will turn back and do this loop once more and then back here. That's approximately 54 kilometers, approximately. But doesn't really matter, it's the same every time, and it's a long enough distance to actually get a consumption number up here that we can look at and estimate the total range of the vehicle with motorway driving. The speed through the tunnel will be 110 kilometers per hour GPS measured. So I'll measure with my phone with the GPS speed. So it's uniform across all cars. 110 kilometers per hour. Once we come back here, we will get a consumption number. This consumption number will indicate how much we use per kilometer. What's important in such a test is to actually have a loop, so you don't get elevation changes. And it's also important to get enough distance, so the heating of the car or stuff like that doesn't matter that much. If you just drive 1 kilometer, you will get an insane consumption number that's not representative at all. The car is also preheated and driven beforehand, so it's ready to go before, so there shouldn't be any differences there. And yeah, it's 9 degrees outside, so like a medium cold temperature, I would say, warmer than the other cars that I've tested on this loop. And wow, you can have 3D maps, that's cool. And yeah. Just important to note that this is just to test the consumption on Norwegian highway driving. It's not necessarily the consumption you will get, it's so many factors. But I want to come with a consumption number here so we can discuss, because I've heard that this car is not as efficient as it maybe should be. It's indicated 149 kilometers here on this is rated range, so this is similar to the VLTP range. So it'll be interesting to see what it shows once we have driven those around 54 kilometers. In reality, it should be around 100 kilometers left, but I already know that that won't happen, since this is highway driving and we will use more than the rated range here. This is the rated range, not a gasometer like many other electric cars, so it won't adjust, it'll just stay stationary on the VLTP estimate. So 33% equals 149 kilometers, which will never be true unless you're driving slow and it's sunny outside. We will reset the trip meter here. I'll reset it right before driving, and yeah, we will see the consumption here, the average speed here, and how long the route is measured by this car. It's around 53.9 kilometers, I think, the entire route, but every car measures differently, so it'll say something around there, but it doesn't really matter since it's the same route for everyone. We will run the climate at 21 degrees. We will not run performance mode. We will just run the normal driving mode with the full regen, and one pedal drive is on. I'll show you that the performance all-wheel drive is not on. We will just drive in the normal one pedal drive mode. Okay, we are ready to go, and I'll just reset the trip meter once more. Car status, trip information, reset, just to make everything sure since last reset here. And we are at 147 kilometers estimated range. We were at 149, but we reset right now before driving, so we are good to go. 147 kilometers estimated and 33% state of charge. Let's go. So the climate is at a moderate 21 degrees. As always, this will just vary between cars. It's difficult to know exactly what you are supposed to put it at. And we always try to drive around the speed limit and then lock in at 110 kilometers per hour on the motorway. And then up to 110 kilometers per hour per the GPS. Actually, the lane assist is super comfortable to use on the highway here. It's much better than the Tesla one because I need to cancel and re-engage, but this one will just disable the lane holding when you put on the blinkers. You do the lane change yourself, and once it's finished, it'll lock itself back in. That's awesome. It is time for our first turnaround point. So just checking in here, we will slow down to around 80 kilometers per hour, then turn around, then slowly accelerate up to highway speed. So the current efficiency is 238 watt-hour per kilometer, which is still quite a lot, but we are still early in the test. Our average speed has been 92.6 kilometers per hour. This makes sense since the start is, of course, slower. It's slow now as well. I must say that the lane assist grows on me. I wasn't really fond of it in the beginning, but now that I'm driving and passing people, I'm kind of satisfied with it. So I can blink over to the other side and it'll lock back in. So yeah, and it isn't afraid of the cars in front compared to, for example, the Tesla Vision system will not let you accelerate when someone is ahead of you. This one seems a little bit, I don't know, natural in terms of driving like a human would. And the lane holding is fine, especially on motorways here. I suspect that Tesla One is a little bit more rigid on country roads, so roads where you have traffic in both directions and tighter turns. But on highway, I think I like this system more. We are slowing down for our second turnaround point. Not really impressed with the efficiency so far, but we still have a little bit to go for it to flatten out and yeah, get the final numbers. The lane holding is fine, but sometimes it's a little bit ping-pongy. It'll throw me between the lanes, a little bit insecure. Not really sure what's going on, but for the most part it's really good. So now it's time for one more loop and then we will turn back. So the current efficiency is 229 watt-hour per kilometer. That was the slowest Tesla known to mankind in the left lane, but we were able to pass it. So there is always these kinds of things that will always influence tests like these. So yeah, take that with a grain of salt. Current live consumption isn't too bad actually. There is a live consumption counter and it tells me I'm using around 190 watt-hour per kilometer right now. So it's pulling the average down even though we are driving at the maximum speed. We are at the last turnaround point for this little efficiency test, and our average efficiency right now is 221 watt-hour per kilometer. Yeah, not very impressive I would say, but this car at least has a large battery for its size. We will crunch some numbers once we are back at location that we started. And we will see how is this car set up to its VLTP estimate. Will you ever be able to reach the VLTP estimate? And then I'll also do a charging test. So that's another video by the way. But you can see that consumption has settled down at 220 watt-hour per kilometer, around there. It'll go a little bit up now that we are climbing, and then maybe a little bit down again before we reach the destination. But when the consumption is flattening out, you know that it's not the small things that affect it. So when it's flattening out, you know you are closer to the consumption you would get on a trip that is 5 times longer, 10 times longer than this. Of course, it's not as accurate. It's always best to drive as far as you can when testing consumption. But yeah, my little route, my little trip of around north of 50 kilometers, it's at least enough to get a consumption number that is realistic. It won't just suddenly change to 180 watt-hour per kilometer or less if I was driving for multiple hours on this road. It wouldn't. It would stay at around the same. Let's freeze frame this one. Our average speed was north of 90 kilometers per hour. That makes sense for the trip that we were driving. We had to slow down for all the turns, and the average efficiency is 216 watt-hour per kilometer, and it counted around 52.2 kilometers for the route. That's approximately the correct kilometers for this testing loop. So you can see that this one is declining, but it was at 91% average once we stopped. So 216 watt-hour per kilometer, or 21.6 kilowatt hours per 100 kilometers. That's the same. And yeah, let's run some numbers. Okay, here are the numbers. So you can see in this test we ran the Model Y rear-wheel drive with the BYD battery and got 176 watt-hour per kilometer on the same route. The Model 3, this is the Highland Model 3, got 161 watt-hour per kilometer on this route. This Volvo EX30 twin motor performance gets 216 watt-hour per kilometer on this same route. So it uses, watt-hour is the amount of energy in the battery. So you always have an amount indicated by the car. So this is how much it uses of the battery, how much energy it uses to move the car. So this is not a very good result if you look at the Model Y. This one is a rear-wheel drive car, of course, and I think this one should be more compared to the Model Y in terms of its shape and such. But still, these are the main competitors of this car, at least here in Norway. So the Model Y with the all-wheel drive system would have used more, but probably more like 180, 190 max, not 216 watt-hour per kilometer. What does this number mean? Well, this car has 69 kilowatt hours large battery. That's 69,000 watt-hour in this car. That's the amount of energy this car can store. Of those 69,000 watt hours, you can use 64,000 of them. So then you take the usable capacity, which is 64 1000 watt-hour, which is the same as 64 kilowatt-hours. You divide it by the efficiency that we had now, which I think probably is a realistic efficiency for this car, for highway driving, or this test in general. You get a range of 296 kilometers. I want to mention that this test is not scientific, because there are so many things that always change, like the weather, like the wind and such. But today was pretty good. There was not much wind, some light drizzle rain. When we tested these two, we had actually, I think we had snow on the Model 3 test, and it was much colder on both of these. All cars were preheated and at approximately the same state of charge when I tested the range. So yeah, I would say these numbers are comparable. At least they are not in. They are not in favor of the Teslas, at least. So this will give a real-world range of 296 kilometers when driving like this. It's rated at 475 kilometers on the VLTP cycle, so I doubt you will be able to reach VLTP anytime soon. I think this car is just a little bit unaerodynamic, and yeah, I want to test a single motor as well to see if there is any actual difference. By the way, the tire pressure was set at the correct level, and yeah, the route is exactly the same as these ones. And both these were also driven at 110 kilometers GPS speed. If you want to see if you want to comment on this, if you think there is any flaws in this test, which there are, I know there are flaws and I always get comments on it. It's just an indication of what you can expect. So look at other reviewers. What kind of efficiency do they get? Do they get close to 216 watt-hour per kilometer? I think they will. I checked my other Tesla tests against other reviewers, and they were really similar. So yeah, just an indication of what range you can expect at yeah, Norwegian highway speeds. Thank you so much for watching. Please leave a comment down below if you appreciate these tests or if you like the other tests better. I want to do more of what people really like.